excited to bring this beauty to you guys. Her book called Sandwich is fantastic, and I encourage all of you to go out and buy it. It's a memoir of holding on and letting go. This is our fabulous, amazing Laurie James. Welcome to Amazing Authors.
Thank you so much for having me, Meg. I'm so happy to be here.
I can't believe it's taken me this long. I mean, I literally have met you in person, which is really amazing. So
yes. Which we had a blast.
We did. We met out at the LA Book Festival back this past March, and it was wonderful with other wonderful cohort members of ours. So it's really awesome to see you. And like I said, shine a light on your story, because as you know, this is where the storyteller becomes a story with amazing authors. So without further ado, I want to welcome all of you into this once empty room that is now full of a story waiting to happen. And we all, and you are the author, Laurie. This is my episode number 20 of Amazing Authors. And I am really, like I said, excited to introduce all of you to Laurie James. She is the author of Sandwich, Memoir of Holding On and Letting Go. It is so good to bring you here to share that story, at least with regard to the process of getting to publish it, and then now actually being in the world doing your thing. So I'm really, this is really cool, because I think in many ways people forget that once you actually put your book out into the world, it is not over.
Oh no, that's so just the beginning, as we know.
Oh my God, just the beginning. But I would like to say it's the beginning of a wonderful journey, like a hero's journey, so to speak, because you were the hero who set out to do this and bring this to life. And I love to shine lights on all the author heroes that I know. I do want to celebrate you, but first I want to give everyone a bit of a background of who you are and why you do what you do. One of my other favorite thing about you is that you are a coach out there helping people by virtue of what you've actually learned and you know, expertise wise, as well as through your own experience in life. Because I think that once we walk that path, it's easy to turn around and grab the hand of others who may be needing the tools that you found on your journey. So without further ado, you are the successful author of Sandwich. You have successfully launched 4 daughters. I love that. Has been the primary caretaker for elderly parents. And you're the founder of a unique program in Manhattan Beach, California, like I said, that helps women through pivotal transitions in life, which I think is incredible. I think the more we are of service to helping others, the better all of our lives can be. You are an active community volunteer. You co-chair youth programs for high school students, exposing them to a variety of career paths before they apply to college, which is another whole. You've been with 4 daughters. You already know that like the back of your hand.
Exactly.
You graduated from Cal Poly Pomona with a BS in business, and you were a corporate recruiter before you stayed home to raise your 4 daughters. You now live in Manhattan Beach and enjoy yoga, skiing, hiking, sailing, and adventure travel, which fantastic. This is your first book and a memoir at that, so that's a brave jump into the world of publishing. And here we are. So welcome, Laurie. Did I miss anything that you want to add to this?
No, I think you covered it pretty thoroughly. Thank you.
You know, I will say this, you know, was there something, and before I give everyone a background as to a little synopsis as to what Sandwich is about, was there something throughout your life? Because I know at the beginning of your book, you started off with, you know, this picture of you, which I love. Put pictures in books, people, because I love the visual. Not only did you put pictures, but you do a really wonderful job with the visualization through your words. So I want to really give you a shout out for that. But was there always something in your heart that wanted you to tell this story?
No, actually, it was. That's a great question, because English was not my strongest language or subject in high school or college, and I was much stronger in math. I would sit in an English class, you know, with a blank piece of paper, and they'd tell you to write a story, and I was like, I don't know what to write about. So I often say my story found me at a time when I really needed to tell others what I was experiencing, not only to help them, but it was also an extremely cathartic healing process for me as I was writing my story. And I didn't realize it, and I was resistant to it. I shouldn't say I was resistant to it. I think I was just at times barely treading water. And because what would happen was I would come home as I was starting to take care of my mom, and I had these 4 teenagers. I'd come home and I'd tell my then husband and my friends, I'd be like, you're not going to believe what happened today. And then another one, and so I'd tell the story and they would say, you need to write this down. I'm like, I don't have time to write this down. I'm like barely surviving. I'm barely keeping all my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
So, and so fast forward several years when things did start calming down and I did have more of a balance in my life. I went to a yoga retreat. There was a fellow writer there and she said, just go away, you know, go into your room and write. And that was the beginning. And what the interesting thing is, it was about 5 years from beginning to end.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I wasn't a writer. So I started taking writing courses and joined some writing groups, you know, to gain the skills and then the confidence to complete my book.
Well, let me tell everybody a little bit about what your book is about, your summary that you wrote, and then we'll get into the whole, you know, I probably don't think 5 years is that long, to be quite honest, right?
No, it's not.
That's not bad, but yeah, it takes a lot of perseverance for sure for the story to come out. And here we go. Here's the synopsis for Sandwiched. Laurie James spent most of her life wondering what it means to belong. Loneliness dictated the choices she made. She rarely shared the secret with others, however. It was always hidden behind a carefree and can-do attitude. When she was in her mid-40s, Laurie's mother had a heart attack and her husband's lawyer delivered some shocking news. She suddenly finds herself sandwiched between caring for her parents, managing unruly caregivers, raising 4 teenage daughters, and trying to understand the choices of the husband she thought she knew. Laurie's story is about one woman's struggle to do it all. How many of us out there, you know, can relate to that while facing the reality that the ideal life and perfect family she believed could save her slowly crumbling beneath her. Oh, so I'm sorry. Save her was slowly crumbling beneath her. Laurie tries everything to keep her family together, seeks therapy, practices yoga, rediscovers nature, develops strong female friends, and begins writing. But as she explores the layers of life and heals her past, she realizes that she's the only one who can create the life she wants and deserves. Sandwiched is a memoir.
I just lost your...
Personally love how people end books too, but the fact that you ended with one of my faves, Joseph Campbell, and he says we must be willing to let go of the life we plan so as to have the life that is waiting for us. Love that quote. Yeah. I know it must mean something to you to have that be the final words for us to embrace as we complete your wonderful memoir, Sandwiched. Oh my goodness, there you go, Sandwiched. So tell us a little bit about that. Let's start off there because I wanted to know why you actually chose that at the end.
You know, I chose that because that was one of my major struggles through that 8-year period that I primarily write about. And I had this idea in my head that if I created the perfect family, if I created the family that I didn't have growing up, that would save me.
Yeah, interesting.
And it took many years of therapy and personal work, some very deep inner work that I had to do to loosen up those beliefs. So to realize I can define family however I choose to define family.
Yeah.
Right. And this marriage is the complete opposite. It's not saving me, it's destroying me. And if I continue to stay, there was a point in, I think I'm pretty sure I wrote about it very briefly, but there was a point that I felt that my soul was going to die if I stayed in my marriage. And
you know, I will say this, the way you write about it, though, you can feel it. You feel that.
Yeah.
You feel that.
Thank you.
That really was exceptionally well done in the actual telling of the story. What I wanted to ask you, I think specifically, as to your journey is. Now looking back, you published this over a year ago now, right?
Yeah.
So now that we look back and like this wonderful journey that you've had, tell me, what were the biggest surprises in putting your story, their very vulnerable memoir out there? It is your story, out there into the world.
Yeah. It's definitely been a journey. I think that having 4 daughters, there was some trepidation on their part about putting our dirty laundry out there. I don't think that it ended up, you know, as we know, our fear is much greater than what reality is. So I don't think it turned into what they were worried about. But I wasn't that worried about putting my own story out there. I've always been one of those people that I'm a very open book, and maybe to an extent, or maybe, too much. But I feel like when we're vulnerable and we do put our story out, it takes the shame away of what's happened to us in our lives, right? Because we all have pieces and parts of our past that, we feel or have felt shame about at some point in our life. And when you talk about it and you bring it out in the open, that's the beginning of minimizing that shame that we feel. So if anything, I feel like it's been transforming in that sense of putting it out there, making other people that are experiencing some piece of my story and touching them, so they don't feel like they're alone. Right. I mean, there's so many women that I talk to who are taking care. I mean, you had little kids and you were taking care of your mom, like, all about that too. So you can totally relate. There's so many of us doing that. I think I went through it on the earlier than a lot of my friends. So I kind of paved the path, and now a lot of my friends are starting to go through that more so now. And I'm still going through it because I have a 93-year-old dad who, I'm dealing with. So 14 years.
14 years. Well, and the word sandwich, I love the cover. It's fantastic. The two hands, which it really does feel like, I don't know if we all I was interviewing, I had an interview the other day where she was telling me when she was little, she used to, dance and wave her hands and just let it all come through her, and the fun just like emanated. And I think there is a point in your life where you're like, when was that going to come back? When is that going to come back?
Yeah.
When will I be able to do that again? And I think the whole idea of being sandwiched feels kind of like in that scene in Star Wars when the two walls come like climbing together and you're like, what's happening to me? Tell me, why did you pick that title? I mean, it's perfect for the book, but tell me, why do you choose it?
Well, it was a process. When I first started writing, I was writing about the Caregiver Chronicles because I was coming home, and as I had caregivers that were stealing from me, drinking on the job, emotionally seducing my dad. One I called the Angel of Death because she, told me that it was time for my mom to die. So when I started writing about the chronicles, the Caregiver Chronicles. And then as I was writing, and it was really, and I would pepper in stuff that was going on in my marriage and with my kids, but not very much. I mean, I really pulled the lens out on those. And when I finished my first draft, I realized this isn't my ending.
Yeah.
I needed to make a very large, empowering decision at that point to write my whole story, to write my truth. And so I made that empowering decision. And then I had the freedom to really write my story. And it was through that process when I realized, oh no, this isn't about the Caregiver Chronicles. This is about being in the sandwich generation, which is actually a term.
Yeah.
And I was being sandwiched between my responsibilities. And it wasn't that I didn't want to have any of those responsibilities. I love my daughters and I would never trade, having them for the world. And it wasn't so much that, it was a burden of taking care of my elderly parents. It was my overall circumstances and how I was catapulted into that and how little support I had. And then also realizing why I was making some of those choices that I made along the way, and which goes back to our childhood, right?
Well,
So
one of the things I will say, one of the things that I love about this book is it feels like you found your voice, and it really did feel like and now you're using it, not only using it to promote obviously your story and your book, but you're also using it to help others. So one of the things to ask in this last year, first of all, I'll go. My compound questions will get me, but what was your like most incredible takeaway, like that you're like, wow, I never saw this coming, but actually this happened, and I'm just like you said, you'll never believe what happened, but this is a good thing, a good takeaway.
A good takeaway, there's several, but I think one of them is the community of fellow authors like yourself, and that camaraderie and the support. I mean, because as you know, writing is a very lonely process, right? And I shouldn't say lonely. It's a process that happens when you are alone. I didn't feel lonely when I was writing my book. In fact, that was one of the times I didn't feel alone through that process, which I found that was surprising. But I think the other piece is once I published my book, it's the support from so many other fellow authors like yourself. And, I've done several events with other authors, and it's really a wonderful community. And I think that was surprising because I expected a little bit more like competition, I would say, out there. Yeah.
Wow. It's interesting because I think that, it doesn't surprise me, like the family of origins and where you were raised and then how you tend to go out into the world. And I think that more and more when you're you show up less competitive, then you become more generous and collaborative. You're like, oh my God, these people show up in your life. So the other thing I really loved about you is you don't seem like an extrovert. God only knows. I'll probably find out you're this introvert, but I can't imagine in a million years having met you and being in your presence that you're an introvert in any stretch of the imagination. But what I will say is that this extrovert, this person who wants to come out and engage other people, are you going to be doing that on a book tour now? Are you going to take it on the road? Have you been? I know that you've done some, obviously in LA, but for sure, is there looking toward the future, going to bookstores where you engage? Because you're a coach too, so I can only imagine that.
Yeah, I'm in the process of figuring that out, what some of my next steps are. I think I'm looking at a variety of various offerings for people relating to redesigning your life, transforming. I call myself a transformative coach, helping people transform and redesign their life in midlife. And I love that. And so I see a combination of continuing to do events and helping others through that process, and also sharing my story as well. So it's a combination.
That's great. And I think there's something different when you are in person. I think we realized that when we were out there. It's there's a different connection that you make with the reader, and you kind of feel like you're inviting them into your life, into your world, and they want to take a piece of you home with them, and that's when they'll pick up your wonderful book, Sandwich, for sure. I would really recommend everyone go and get there, especially if they are taking care of elderly parents, or even just anybody who needs caregiving, because you had 4 daughters too going through all of this. Yes. So one of the things, another thing that I look for, to gain insight from the amazing authors is if someone is sitting there and they're ready to launch into this world of telling their story, or showing, don't tell, of course, what is one of the things that you've learned that you wish you had known at the beginning of your process and that you know now?
I think it's I would say the fear is the fear of putting yourself out there, the concern, work through those fear issues. It's there's so many people that are going to connect with your book. And say yes, reach out, say yes to podcasts, say yes to IG lives. That is the second part of our process. And so many writers are introverts, so that's really hard. But pretend like you're just talking to one person about your story, like your best friend, and share you know, who your characters are and just be yourself.
Yeah.
And that is the way I have found I've connected with my readers so much more, is just being who I am, and just finding that common ground, that the through threads that are similar in their lives, and how your story connected with them.
No, I love that. And you know, from the beginning, when you started 5 years ago writing your story to the time you published, you're a different person, because your book is done, your story's out.
Completely.
But even from the time you published until now, I mean, how do you see yourself as even different, more evolved, more transformed, to use your words as a coach? Now, you know, looking back on that this past year plus, you know, as to, you know, wow, I'm, you know, more resilient, more tired. I don't know. What are the words that come to mind for you?
Some of those, you know, I definitely took some time off this summer because, you know, it is very rewarding. And I am an extrovert, but I'm actually an introverted extrovert. I need a certain amount of downtime to myself, so that way I can be an extrovert. I can't go. Yeah. Otherwise I will crash. And I have done that before. I wrote about that in my epilogue. But I do. I feel like I'm a different person. I've continued to gain more confidence, and I'm continuing to figure out what's next for me, right? And how can I continue to be of service? One of my values is making a difference. And so I do that through volunteer, but also through my coaching. And it's really been extremely rewarding for me to watch my clients transform and redesign their life and flourish. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to continue to reach more people that way. I'm also toying with the idea of a second book.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Confessions of a Free Bird, going from sandwich to transforming and redesigning my life into becoming a free bird, because I'm a free spirit at heart. And I think so many of us, especially women in midlife, are looking for more freedom, more happiness, more joy in their lives, right? I think that's one of the reasons why you changed your life and your career and redesigned your life, right?
Yeah.
And so the more that we can empower other women to do that, to find their happiness, you know, whether it's changing careers or leaving a marriage, or you know, just figuring out what they want to do as empty nesters, right? I call it, and that's how I coined the term. And I didn't coin the term, you know. I think who's the band? Leonard Skinner. Leonard Skinner. I think they actually coined the term free bird. That was one of their albums. But anyways, you know, I said, I'm not an empty nester. I'm a free bird. Like, this is my opportunity to, you know, do something different with my life. Not that I disliked my life as a mother, because I was making a difference in their lives, but it's like, okay, what's my next chapter now? You know, what can I do next?
And you also are now, you know, for your girls, you know, you are definitely a role model. You know, it's not over. It's not over after you have kids and you raise them and you check those off and you moved on and you like, okay, you keep evaluating, you keep evolving, you keep transforming. It's never over until it's over. And you see that with regard to your mom, you know, with your dad, with your kids, with your friends, everything, with the relationships that you choose and relationships that you're forced upon, like all of it. I definitely am very interested in inspiration, for sure. I like to breathe life into people. And is there something that, as far as your path is concerned, like an inspirational quote or some kind of story that you can listen to or hear, you've heard, that keeps you going, you know, when you feel life's challenges? Is there some kind of inspiration that you can offer for all of us today?
You know, I'm often about affirmations. You know, I always am looking for, because we're human. We all have ups and downs, right? And if you don't, then you're not human, or you're not in touch with your emotions, right? Because if you're happy all the time, that's, you know,
It's a lie.
It's a lie. Yes. Thank you. So, so affirmations, and, you know, I love Joseph Campbell. I love Mary Oliver. You know, I just kind of go through, I think that that's always helpful and uplifting, is, you know, just changing your perspective. You know, if you are feeling down, it's okay to feel your emotions and it's okay to sit with those. But then, you know, get out and walk, or, you know, change your perspective. What's the opposite of whatever it is that you're feeling? You know, I think it's important to allow ourselves to feel our feelings and feel our emotions, because that's the way we work through them, instead of shoving them down or shoving them in the back seat and not acknowledging them. But then it's also important to then allow yourself to move through that, whatever, however works for you. And everybody's different. For me, I do a ton of walking. That was one of the things, and hiking and being out in nature. I mean, that's me. I know you're not as much of a nature person as I am, although
I
you
love the
walk
beach.
El Camino.
Yeah, I did do that, but I do love the ocean. It does.
Yes.
The water is what brings me great peace. So I definitely.
Yeah. Well, and those negative ions that come off the ocean, I mean, those are extremely helpful for us. I live by the ocean too. So, and you know, I need my ocean and my mountains. That's always been, those are my two happy places. So it's finding, allowing yourself to feel your emotions, but then also finding the opposite and changing your perspective on your situation, because we can always find more gratitude in our lives for the things we do have, for the people that we have in our lives.
Yeah, and the other, like, I love asking this question. How do you want to be known as a writer? Is there like someone, oh, Laurie James, she's this kind of writer? Is there some kind of, I'm not going to put words into your mouth, so you tell me. When we talk about you, what do you want us to think about?
You know, I'd like to, I want people to remember me, how I resonate with them. I mean, I don't want to project what I want people to think about me. But I'd like to think that I am very authentic and vulnerable, and what you see is what you get. Right. And I am who I am, and you either like me and you resonate with my story, or you don't. And that's okay. Not everybody is going to resonate with my story, and I'm not going to touch everybody, but I think there's enough people out there that my story has touched and will continue to touch. And if I can help them make one little shift in their life that might bring them a little bit more happiness and joy, then I want to be able to do that. That's how I want to be remembered, I guess. It's the best.
I think even more so, I think it's more of like how I'm going to be referred. Like, honestly, with regard to what you just said, I prefer people who are authentic. I prefer people who have integrity. I prefer people who are honest and vulnerable. And I think that that's a gift to the world, because at the end of the day, you lived who you were, and what really, like you said, not resonates with me, it resonates with you. So what you bring into your circle of influence is going to be more of the same, and people you can really help, and who can basically up level because of the fact that they got to meet you, which is really, I would definitely encourage everyone, go grab sandwich. You're going to love it. It's definitely a wonderful read if you're going through a situation where you're taking care of anyone, any kind of caregiving you're giving, because I think it'll give you the feeling that you'll not die of terminal uniqueness. There are other people who are out there going through what you are going through, and that if you want to get some kind of, like, maybe I always say anchoring, because we feel like life is going by so fast and that we are not able to really, like, why is this happening to me? And it's not necessarily that it's happening to you, it's a part of life. And I love that you're vulnerable.
Well, and that's, one of the things that I did, we all play victim at some point. And I think what I tried to change that around is, okay, what am I supposed to learn by these experiences? And I think that's a great metaphor for life of, not playing the victim of, woe is me, why is this happening? Like, okay, this is happening in my life for a reason. And what am I supposed to learn from it? What's my takeaway? And go inward to ask that question. Maybe it's setting healthier boundaries. I know, I mean, that was something that I had to figure out, setting healthier boundaries around a lot of people in my life, changing relationships, whatever it is. It's going to be different for everybody. But yeah, I think that's a wonderful metaphor for life. And again, it shifts that perspective in our life and so that way it's less victimized.
Well, and also, you know, the fact that you just said, you know, go within, you have all the answers you'll need. Maybe you just need a coach to help you shine some light on what that is, or a book that may do the same thing. But, you know, the reality is that as we go along, you know, there's so many wonderful, you know, books that we can read, and certainly Sandwich is definitely one of them that will help you and do that for you if that's something you're struggling with right now. So I love readers. I love people who are curious. I love people who, even if they're going through the most hellish times, they're, you know, still seeking, searching. And like you said, I'm going to read the quote again because I love it. I was just like, I can't believe she quoted Campbell. We must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. So sometimes the universe or God or whatever you believe in has something even better in store for you. You just have to let go of the things that are weighing you down, which I was like, pace yourself, choose wisely. And with that, I'm going to give you the final word. Like I said before, this is about the storyteller. Books do change lives. And certainly this life of the storyteller is so profound that we all, for years on end, always want to know a little bit more. So give us one bit more about you that we wouldn't know reading your book, or even, you know, reading your bio and hearing from other people, something about you that, you know, is like, oh my God, you'll never believe what I heard.
Well, because that's a tough one, Meg, because I feel like I have put so much in my book.
You have.
I kind of just vomited on the pages. Let's see, what is something that people...
How about something that you love that would be really kind of revealing?
Okay. So my mindless TV show that I love is The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
Okay, just like some mindless checkout, stupid romance kind of stuff that's a little cheesy, but sometimes you just need to check out from reality for a little bit.
I think that is amazing. So if anyone needs to check out for reality for a little bit, go for The Bachelor or Bachelorette. Get that. See who gets the rose. You know, be shocked at the rest of the world, and know that there is a storyteller behind that story as well. And like I said before, go out and get Sandwich. It is a wonderful book, a memoir of holding on and letting go. I love the fact that letting go is something that we all strive for. You know, because at the same time, it's like you have to clean out your closet to put some new beautiful clothes in there. So go for that. Do that. I want to thank you, Laurie, for joining me. And
thank you so much for having me.
I have to say I'm very excited about the next book that you have coming out. So hopefully it won't be in 5 more years, and that your wonderful expertise with writing will have it pouring onto the page much sooner than that. But I want to thank you for joining me today. You are an amazing author. You're an amazing person, which is even
ditto. I feel the same way. And for those of you who are on here for me, please read Meg's book, Butterfly Awakens, which is a fabulous book as well about transforming through grief. So right back at you, girl.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to collaborating much more with you and seeing you at the Story Summit.
Yes, we're going to see each other in December. Looking forward to it.
You know, one of my favorite things about all of this is the creativity that I'm surrounded with, and I get to, like, I feel like, you know, it's kind of like they said, the Outliers, if you just sit in a room with books, you'll just somehow get smarter. And that's how I feel around all these creative people in my life, is somehow I will get smarter, more creative, more, who's more beautiful, I don't know, inside and out. So I'm very appreciative, and thank you so much. Remember, books change our lives. Great writing stirs our emotions and makes us feel. And those authors who are vulnerable to the extent that they're truly changing the world, we are appreciative of them because they're making a difference with their words.